to be honest. I don't know if I could live up to that. Thank you for having me here today. I grew up a daughter of shluchim in California. And when I was in 9th grade, I petitioned my parents, or at the end of 8th grade, that it wasn't my choice to go on shluchos, it was theirs. And therefore, they should send me back to Crown Heights, where perhaps I'll have more than 5 girls in my class. And they did, surprisingly. I went to Beis Rivka in 9th grade. I did not know one. I didn't know anybody. There were 72 girls in my class. I had never met any of them. I stayed at my cousin's house. And my cousin there was a boy who was best friends with a nice guy from across the street named Hurwitz. And there was something very special about him. I had never met somebody with so much energy and so much joy. And whenever he would walk into the room, I would turn red and walk out. And I told my mother that I'm going to marry him. And she laughed. I was 14. She says, I'm sure you'll say that about a lot of people. And I said, I don't know, maybe yes, maybe no. But in the end, I'm going to marry him. 9th grade was the only year I went to school in Beis Rivka. I went back home. And when I was 21, he's the first guy I dated. I still had an older sister who wasn't married, so I wasn't in a big rush. But when he came up, I couldn't say no. We went out. It was, there has never been an easier decision in my life. There was nothing that I worried about. There was nothing that I thought might not be exactly what I wanted. It was like everything was perfect. I just worried that it was too perfect. Nothing is that perfect. We got married. It'll be 21 years to B'Shvat. We got married in Crown Heights, and we had our first daughter over there, and then we moved on shlichus first to Boulder, Colorado, and then to California. We lived in a small city called Temecula, and I grew up in California and never heard of it. There's actually a bumper sticker that says, "Where the heck is Temecula?" And not exactly heck, but because there was some news event that happened there, and all the news channels tried to go, but nobody knew where it was, and they all missed it. So we moved to this little town in 1999, and it was a beautiful but challenging shlichus. Very middle-class community. The closest school was 50 miles away in San Diego, which is interesting because when we were dating, we talked about whether, where we want to go on shlichus, and I said it had to be driving distance from a school. I don't want to send my kids away young. I should have been more specific. What is acceptable driving distance, right? I drove 1,000 miles a week. I brought them to school and came home and picked them up and came home, and that was our life for many years. I did work in Temecula and with our shlichus over there, and it was very, very hectic. We had Kinahar has 7 kids. They were born in less than 10 years from each other, so they're close in age. And we had the shul in our house for many years. Now, my husband is unique in his energy and his ability to be positive, the way he reaches people, the way he uses every single one of his talents that Hashem blessed him with to be a good shliach. And the reason he was able to reach people the way he was is because he really loved people. He really cared about and everybody he spoke to. And he was interested in what you had to say and what your answer was for how are you, not just that it's something that we say because it's polite. Yitzi is a really good storyteller and teacher. When we were in Crown Heights, Yitzi taught I think he taught in Olei Torah. And when we were moving out on shlichus, the mothers, they band together and they said, you can't. We also need some good teachers here. We can't just lose all the good ones to shlichus. And my husband, who saw their point, but this is really twofold. First of all, his dream in life was to be the Rebbe's soldier. And second of all, I did not like it in Crown Heights. In Crown Heights, it's no big deal. You have a baby, so did everybody else on your block. And it was very, like, you can get lost if you're not from a big city especially. So I found it hard to live in Crown Heights, and I very much wanted to move out and have the kind of life that I protested as a 9th grader, but this time by my choice, and to be the Rebbe soldiers. So my husband used his ability to talk to people, his ability to sing beautifully and to dance and play guitar, and really like incorporated every aspect in connecting with people and in teaching people about Yiddishkeit and doing what the Rebbe wanted. I'm not sure if it's a problem here. I'm assuming it's a problem everywhere, but chinuch is expensive. And it costs $70,000 a year to educate our children. So Temecula being a small community, my husband had to get a few more jobs in order to pay for that. So first of all, he worked as a chaplain in a state mental facility, which means for people who commit crime but plead insanity, that's where they end up. It was actually very good for our marriage because he thought I was normal. And his other job was doing hashgacha work at a dairy farm, where he would often sleep in his car 4 nights a week and wake up once an hour and go and check that everything was still kosher and clean. And I really never saw somebody work. I don't know anybody who worked harder in their lives than what he did. And he did this for a couple years. We got the Chabad house out of our house. We had a nice little storefront and nice community, nice people, but not a very affluent community. It was hit very hard by the housing crisis in, I don't know what year, 2000 and what? 8. When we bought our house in Temecula, we bought a big, beautiful 6-bedroom house for $270,000. And within a few years, it was worth $800,000. And anybody who bought then, in a few years after that, was worth, again, $250,000. And the people were really hurting. And when people come to the shliach to pay their gas bill, you know it's bad. you know it's difficult. But it was our community. It was our family. And we really loved it there. Around summer, 4 years ago, my husband told me, he's like, this strange thing happens from time to time. I'll be talking, and my tongue feels like it's not working properly. I always, by the way, joke with my husband about energy, because he has a ton and I have none. And so and he's never sick. We used to call him Superman, because he doesn't even have to sleep. So I said to him, maybe you need to sleep. I mean, you're like 40 now. Maybe you need to do what all people do and sleep in a bed at night. And so for a little while, he switched his schedule around, and he slept in a bed at night, and it seemed to get better, and then it didn't, and we started going to doctors. And in the beginning, it was a sinus infection. And then it was an even more severe sinus infection. And when the medication for that didn't help, we started going to other doctors. And we started a long process. It took about 6 months to get the diagnosis of ALS. ALS is a neuromuscular disorder, which is in the same category as MS and Parkinson's. It's like its mean older brother. And as of now, there's no cure for it. What happens is the brain and the muscles stop connecting. It's still a machlaikas, who's not talking to who, but the muscle, eventually they die, and the number one cause of death is that your muscles to breathe are not strong enough. My husband had what's called bulbar onset, which is the most aggressive form. It starts in the mouth. Generally, the lifespan is 2 years from the start of the symptoms. And it took like a good 6 months to get a diagnosis. There's no blood test for it. You just have to rule out everything else, and you have a certain amount of symptoms, and then that must be what you have. And I don't think I ate a full meal, slept a full night, took a deep breath at all. And as we're ruling out more and more things, and it looks like this is what it might be, my biggest fear was approaching. I'm going to have to tell the children. And I'm going to cry. But telling the children that, in one conversation your childhood is over is a tough one. Telling them that their Superman is soon going to lose his ability to speak and to move is really hard. So, of course, we contacted some specialists, High Lifeline, and some psychologists and some doctors about what's the right thing to do. At this time, we always divide our kids into the older ones and the littles, I call them. There's really like 3 years between the older ones and the littles, but it makes a difference. And the oldest was about 16 at the time, and the youngest was 6. And we brought them home from Los Angeles, the big kids were going to school at that point in Los Angeles. They were sleeping there all week and coming home for Shabbos. That was better chinuch than the school that they were going to in San Diego. And we brought them home, and they already knew it must be big because we don't skip school. This was a really difficult discussion, and we had rules. First of all, we have to be honest, because if they can't trust me, where are they going to turn to? So I had a few, we told them what we know. We told them as simple and honest as we can. The little ones, we went into much less detail. The big ones, it was a much longer conversation. And there were certain things that I told them. I asked them to, please don't Google this. And they said, why? I said, because there's nothing new. There's nothing new on the computer. The information there, most of it has been there for years. ALS is also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. I'm not like a big baseball fan, but I think he died 50 years ago, and in that time, they've come up with nothing new. I told them that they also don't know your father, and they don't know the Rebbe, and they don't know God. So they trusted me on that, at least for a little while. The other thing I told them was, it's okay to be happy or sad or angry or scared. It's really, whatever you feel is fine, but you cannot use it to ruin your life. I think it was easier to say then. Now they're all teenagers, and teenagers are more complicated. Not all, but most of them are teenagers. The other thing I told them was, you don't have to figure out your whole life now. You just have to figure out how to get through this moment. And after this moment, we'll figure out how to get through the next moment. It was a really, really, really difficult conversation. The day that we got the diagnosis actually was the day before I told them. We got the diagnosis. It was my husband's 41st birthday, Beis Adar. And he had planned a farbrengen with all of his friends that we were hoping would be a Sudais Haida'ah, thanking God for not giving us this disease. And as we're driving home, it was like a 2-hour drive from where the doctor was to us, and it was really quiet. I didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say. I said to him, finally, is there anything that you always wanted to do and you didn't do now yet? I have to be honest. I thought he was going to say, take me to Hawaii. He said we never wrote a Torah and we never built a mikvah. Like, he didn't even hesitate. He knew these things. They were on his mind. A year later, on his birthday, we finished writing our Torah. And unfortunately, there's still no mikvah there because they don't own a property. They're still renting a storefront. I asked him if he wants to cancel the farbrengen, and he looked at me like, why would I want to do that? So we had a farbrengen, and, he had a farbrengen. I went home, knowing tomorrow I'm going to tell my kids. And I was pacing, I was throwing, I couldn't deal. Let's just say he deals better with things than I do. We got somebody knocked at the door, a Bachar, Yeshiva Bachar, and he said, my uncle is friends with you, and I heard you could use some help, and I also have a car full of food from Los Angeles. So I told him, I'm like, there's the refrigerator, there's the couch, and I'll talk to you in the morning. And he stayed for 6 months. Now he's a Tati, and we had to go to his wedding. So my husband had this farbrengen, and we really lived far away from everybody. And he had 200 shluchim come from far to this farbrengen. And a lot of people said that they came like expecting the worst, and they left so happy. There is a fund, actually, that helps take care of all of our medical expenses and living expenses, and that started at that farbrengen over there, where they sent Yitzi out of the room, and they said, all right, guys, we have a job to do. This is my phone number. Text me how much you're going to give a month. And we're talking about shluchim, who don't really have a whole lot of extra. And this is what takes care of our family. That started that day of his diagnosis. You know, the next little while was really hard, but it was hard because in my mind, because of the fears of what's going to come. It got much harder physically after that. The next morning, I'm struggling to get back to life. I got to take my kids to school, and how do you go from that conversation to let's do carpool? And my son, who was 12 at the time, said to me, Ma, you just have to get through this moment. And it's always nice when our kids hear what we're saying. So far, I know that one time my kid heard what we were saying. That time. But it was really hard to get to function normally at that time. What we saw, we really lived in the middle of nowhere, and we were really very isolated. But what we saw the Chabad community come together, and with the unbelievable amount of love and support, and almost, like a safety net, catching us to make sure that we don't fall. And it would make me cry every time somebody did something nice. Strangers that I don't know. Me and my daughter, she's my oldest, she'll be 20 soon. And every time we would get all teary-eyed, she would look at me and she would say, nice people stink. And it would make us laugh a little bit, and we'd get through the moment. For myself, I'm not such a strong person. And the only thing ever holding me up was my husband and his faith in me. And I thought to myself, we have, according to the doctors, less than 2 years. How are the kids going to remember this time? If it was up to me, I would really be hiding in my closet crying. But my husband would be so ashamed of me, and my kids won't have any good memories left. It's done. And I couldn't do that. So I figured out how to be happy. Now, this is very interesting, because my whole married life, my husband has been saying, Dina, being happy is a decision. You got to make it, and you got to be happy. And I would be like, hello? You were born happy. You don't even know. And he bought me Dennis Prager's book and any other book, and I'm like, I know why, I just don't know how. And I had to make a decision that this is going to be a happy house. Yitzi's a happy person. Whatever time we have left is going to be his time. It's going to be time that he can be proud of. But making a decision to be happy is like making a decision to lose weight. Like, nothing happens. You actually have to, find ways to implement it and to make sure it works. Now, it's everything that works sometimes doesn't work. And as the kids get older, we have to be a little bit more creative, and we're always looking for new ways to make the house a happy house. But in general, what I decided then was that I'm going to give up on my lifelong dream of being sophisticated, And I'm just going to be what comes very naturally to me is I'm a little bit of a dork, and I'm good with that. It's fine. The kids like it. And I'm okay with it. And so, like, not needing to be something you're not is a really big relief. We make silly jokes. Sometimes people, think that we're crazy. I yell at my husband for not taking out the trash for 3 years. It's not so acceptable. We do whatever will lighten up the moment. We do things, we try to be silly. We try not to take things too seriously. And when it comes to the kids having arguments or wanting something from me, I have a 5-year plan in my mind. In 5 years, will this make a difference? Sometimes we get really caught up in the everyday moment, and they have to know I'm the parent, they're the child, no is no. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're going through something really difficult, and this is not going to make a difference. Make them happy. Even if it's just a few minutes a day. Whatever it is, it doesn't hurt you. If it has to do with their education or their Frumkeit, it's non-negotiable. But if it's something that doesn't matter, most of the things don't matter like in 5 minutes, let alone 5 years. And, to take a step back away from being so rigid. And it's been, somewhat liberating. We have a lot of music in the house. Yitzi is very musical. We have my older 3 boys, they all play guitar. And we have 8 guitars and a ukulele. You can never find a couch to sit on. It's all under the guitars. There's a lot of music in the house, and there's a lot of being silly. But, the kids are also smart. And they know what's going on, and it is scary, and it is difficult, and we really try to do the best that we can, but it doesn't always work for every kid. And sometimes the kids will say something that just really breaks my heart. My son told me that, it's like we lost a father and the world got a hero. He says, and the sad thing is, the world needs a hero, but we also need a father. He has a hard time connecting as a teenager because they're not patient. Some of my other kids will come in and have like eyebrow raising contests with him, or just, he can still, whatever he could do, they do their homework with him, they read him stories, they tell him how their day went, he tells them which notes to play on the guitar, and they learn new songs. I mean, we eat all the Shabbos and Yom Tov meals in his room. There's a lot that does go on, but on a personal level, sometimes they struggle with how to connect. When Yitzi lost his ability to speak, we had to find a new shliach for Temecula. We found somebody who to take over, and we moved to Los Angeles, which is where our kids were, the 4 big kids were going to school at the time, and we figured it would be the least disruptive move of all. We all know people in the Southern California area. 4 of them don't have to change their school. But that being said, we were leaving our shlichus, which is like our family. And that was really difficult. And to top it all off, we moved from a really nice house into an apartment building of all Jewish people. Overlooking the boys' yeshiva. And no front yard and no backyard and no privacy, and I was like horrified. I mean, we looked for months for a house. The houses in LA are older and they're not wheelchair accessible, and I felt like the worst Lubavitcher in the world looking for a house that's wheelchair accessible when my husband doesn't need a wheelchair yet. So here we moved to this apartment building, which is nice and big, and it was actually built for the Rebbe's in Yeshiva, so there's 4 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a huge kitchen, an elevator. And the first week we were there, I wake up in the morning, I open the curtains to my bedroom, and there is my son learning, "Good morning, Mommy." And I said, oh my gosh, I'm not going to make it through this. There's no way, we're so close. And it's interesting, the things that we find that we have sometimes the hard time with, are often the biggest blessings for us. We live next door to yeshiva, and they're in my house all the time. We have minyanim in the house, and we have singing in the house. My son posted a video last night what happens when mommy's out of town. And there was like maybe 70 people there doing a kumsitz. It was very beautiful. And it's really been an unbelievable blessing to have the yeshiva so close to us. And I'll tell you a little bit more about it soon. Now that first year was really hard because every month he lost something else. And every time he would turn to me with a shy smile and say, how do we figure this out? And he never mourned the loss, and he never worried about what's coming next. It was always, okay, this is the situation and let's figure out how to deal with it. I, on the other hand, was not that way. Every time it was devastating for me, and every time I felt guilty, I wasn't happier last month when it was easier. And it was just hard and harder and harder. And it all started with his mouth, so his singing and talking and eating and davening and kissing the kids was the first to go. Actually, the 2 times that he cried, really cried, was when I had to call the Rav and tell the Rav, he can't really say all the words of davening anymore. What does he have to say? And he told me the minimum, and I told him, and he burst out crying. Which is weird because, there's a lot of other big issues aside for davening with your mouth, but he really loves his mitzvahs. And then, of course, I had to call the Rav again the next week, and each time he could do less and less, and now he does it all in his head. And the other time he cried was when he couldn't kiss the kids anymore. So that was 3 years ago, after Sukkot, he got a feeding tube. And that's how he gets all of his food and medicine and water. And then the rest of his body began to weaken. And by the following year, after the day after Rosh Hashanah, he was rushed to the hospital with pneumonia and ended up having a tracheotomy, which means putting him on a ventilator to breathe for him. Now, we knew that was coming. We just didn't realize it was so soon. And the doctor said to me, he says, his life with the ventilator is going to get a bit easier. Yours is going to get a lot harder. So? What are you supposed to say? Okay. But thinking you understand that is like thinking that you'll understand what labor means. It changed a lot of things. At that time, he could still use his right hand, which meant that he could drive his wheelchair and adjust his position wherever he wanted to go. And he can type on his phone and be in touch with people. Also, the iPhone has like a talk button, so you can write something and it will speak it out loud, and that was his way to communicate. So he was somewhat mobile and he could communicate, but when we went into the hospital, his right hand stopped moving. And all of a sudden, he's no longer mobile and has no means to communicate. We stayed in the hospital for 10 days. We were there for Yom Kippur. And we were introduced to a computer called a Toby, which has a sensor that sees the light in his eyes and can see where he's looking and writes for him. It's also a computer where he can download Sfarim on there and books, and he can go online and learn things and be in touch with people through social media, through email. And it's really an interesting computer and a very big gift to be able to stay connected to the world. And for him, his dream of being the Rebbe's soldier is the same dream. And he's still able to fulfill that dream, which brings him an amazing amount of joy. Interestingly enough, my husband used to have glasses, really thick glasses. And maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I got him a gift of laser eye surgery, which turns out to be amazing hashgacha pratis, because if you have glasses, the computer can't read your eyes because the light is on the glass instead of in your eyes. A funny story is he used to take the kids to the pool in Temecula, and he always told me, he's a little worried because he can't really see the kids, and so they play like Marco Polo. He calls their name. If they don't answer, we go home. And he couldn't wait to have his eyes fixed to go back to the pool. So the big day comes and his eyes are healed and he can take the kids to the pool, and 5 minutes later they're home. And I said, what happened? I had no break. I needed that hour. He says, do you know what they wear at the pool? It's like, I'm a rabbi. I can't be there. And that was the end of my 1 hour break. But it was really good that we did that, hashgacha pratos, because that made it easier for us. So he watched all of his abilities and all of his talents and all of his gifts disappear. And it seems like what would be left would be devastating. It seems like, how could anybody survive past that? But he's unusual, and I guess we're all unusual, because everybody has their things in their life that they survive past what we should have to. And I want to show you a little bit of what goes on in his room, and what, through the help of many friends, he accomplished. Not really he accomplished, but was accomplished. My daughter found a SIM card and plugged it into her phone, and here she hears my husband singing a song. Now, we hadn't heard his voice in 2 years, and it was a fantastic song. My husband wrote quite a few songs. He sang one to me at our wedding. And I shared it with the Bachram in Yeshiva who learned it and sang it to him for his birthday, and I shared it with a good friend of his, Chaim Marcus, who said, I really need to share this with the world. Do you mind? And I thought, well, maybe he could convince one of his brothers to sing it, 8th day, maybe. We had no idea what he was going to do with it, but he made something really beautiful that I want to show you and share with you. But I also want you to notice the computer that my husband uses and how many people are in his room.
If I'm a little light, you're a little light. Together we are so very bright. A little light here, a little light there. See the smiles, it's so very clear. Shine a little light, show us the way.
So you, first of all, you see the computer that he uses to communicate and to write. His Divrei Torah that he writes every week takes him all day. And all the people in the room. I don't know if you noticed there's a Torah in the room. We have, every time there's Kriyas Torah, we have a minyan there. Shortly after Rashi Minkowitz passed away, a few things came up. One of the things was that she's named after somebody who also passed away very young, and we looked into who my husband is named after. And it turns out he passed away very young too, so we added the name Yosef to my husband. And I also found that our Shabbos tables are not so happy. My boys don't want to take over for my husband. They're a little upset that he can't do it. So Shalom Aleichem and Eishes Chayil is not, I don't want to fight with them every week to do it. And it just so happens that we live next door to yeshiva. So I went to one of the teachers over there, and I asked him if he could please send us a couple of Bachrim to sing Shalom Aleichem and Eishes Chayil with us. So we started off with 3 Bachrim, and that grew into every Friday night we have about 25 Bachrim who come after davening, and they sing Shalom Aleichem and Eishes Chayil and a few other songs. And these boys really bring life into the house. They bring so much joy and so much music, and they're big brothers to my kids and take them for Slurpees, and they put tefillin on with Yitzi, and they have chavrusas with him on a daily basis. And 11th grade Gemara class learns 4 days a week in his room. And this has become part of our life. I mean, I can't talk to him until 3:15 because he's busy. And it's amazing because, he's not the type that always loved learning. He was more the type that was out there doing mivtzayim. And when we were contemplating moving to Los Angeles, he spoke to a mashpia and he says, I just can't see myself learning every day. Just sitting there and learning, like that's not the way I do, that's not how I translate what the Rebbe wants for me to do. And he told him that his father had a stroke. And his father also was very unhappy that all he could do was sit and learn. And the Rebbe told him that you can accomplish by in 1 hour of sitting and learning so much that if you only knew, you would do it 24 hours a day. So he does. He sits and learns, and he teaches. For myself, I think it's been harder. I have to take care of the children and keep them happy and take care of him. And oftentimes we're without nurses, so I'm not sleeping, and I'm not, and I never know until they don't show up that they're not going to show up. And it's a little bit more complicated. And after he had the trach, a lot changed. First of all, we had a nurse in the house 24 hours a day, hopefully. And I moved to one of the kids' bedrooms. Eventually, I threw the kids out of that bedroom so I could have my own bedroom. But it was different. And the initial challenge was that your body wants to breathe. And your ways of breathing are no longer available, and your body goes into shock. And most of us who have ever had any kind of anxiety or panic know that the way we calm ourselves down is through our breathing, and he can't. Not that he ever had panic or anxiety before that, but his breathing is by a machine, and it doesn't change no matter what. And it was a really difficult adjustment period, really, really hard. And after things quieted down, I went on a Shabbaton with a group of women. And I hadn't been out of my house, out of his room for months. It was so drastic. It was in the desert. It was in a different location. It wasn't the normal, my friends it was a different group of women, but it was really something very special. And I didn't have the opportunity to cry in months because I was busy and I was terrified. But I really, cried to these 2 very, very special ladies. And one of them said to me, Dina, there is a difference between pain and suffering, and you need to figure out what it is. Pain is, we're in gullus. Everybody has pain. Suffering is when there's no purpose to your pain. And that really got me thinking. And so my first night in months without machines beeping, I was up pacing the whole night, trying to figure out how to apply this to my life. How could I put meaning in my life? I'm really just surviving. How on earth am I going to add to that? There's not a whole lot more time in the day, and there's for sure no more energy. And I realize I'm going to have to be brave and do some things I don't like to do, which some of you heard before. My big fear is public speaking and writing. And I don't have a fear of writing, but I found that through my writing, people from all over the world got back to me that something about what I was saying was helping them through something that they were going through. And I think, again, it boils back to being honest. I don't pretend when I write. I don't pretend when I speak either, except I do put cover up on, but aside from that, not pretending. But I think that we all have our challenges, and we have to find a way to have some sort of meaning to what we're going through. Yitzi talks about in his blog using his illness as a platform. He can stand up there and reach people that he could never reach before without the illness. And he does it on a daily basis because most of us are broken. But we think everybody else is whole. And we don't relate to them. You obviously cannot relate to me because I'm broken and you're whole. But if I see you're also broken, maybe I can listen to you. And what's interesting, I saw somewhere the Japanese, they have a tradition of when a vessel breaks, they fill it with gold because it's the broken parts of us that make us beautiful. I also came up with this little analogy that helps me. Because I stay up every night trying to figure out why and how, and so far I haven't figured anything out after like 1,000 nights of that. I thought of this little silly story, but it helps me. Imagine that you're a princess in a kingdom, and you are, every year in this kingdom, there's a ball in your honor. And you've gone your whole life. And this year you decide that 2 days before the ball, you're going to go into the kitchen and see what's going on. You go into the kitchen, and you're like overwhelmed with the chaos that you see there. And in your wildest dreams, you can't imagine how that is going to be the ball that you always go to. And the thing is that you're a princess, and you don't belong in the kitchen. I mean, not our kitchens, but in this kitchen. Because you know that it's going to be taken care of. And your job is only to show up and be your most dignified self possible. We don't know how Hashem works behind the scenes. It looks like chaos to us. It looks messy, it looks painful, it's dirty, it's not anything that we can imagine. But it's not our job to figure out how Hashem does what he does. It's our job to show up at our life and do the best we can, to be dignified, to do the best job that we can be with what we're given. Most of the time this helps me. I still like to know why, but the thing is I know that Hashem knows why. And for myself, I don't view myself as somebody who's not smart at all, but I try to lean on people that I know are smarter than me. And I know have been through more and have a deeper understanding. And for me, it's the Rebbe. The Rebbe, became Rebbe right after the Holocaust. And he saw what goes on. He heard from everybody, all the people coming, what they lived through. And his first speech in office was that this world is a beautiful garden. It wasn't that he was trying to make us feel good. It was that despite everything, he really believed that this world has amazing potential. And we have the potential to open it up in this world, to bring out the garden, to bring out the beauty of this world. And for me, on a day where I don't trust myself and my thought process, I still trust the Rebbe's thought process. And that really helps me continue when I don't have my own strength to do it. I think we're going late, so I'm just going to end off with a story that did not happen to me, but I really like the story. There's a rabbi in Israel, his name is Rav Fear. Most of you, I'm sure, have heard of him, and he is an expert in medical diagnosis, and he helps people all over the world. And his research and what he does cost a lot of money, and he has financial backers that help him. And one time he was having a meeting with one of his financial backers in Yerushalayim, and at the end of the meeting, they decided they're going to go to the Kotel and thank Hashem for a successful meeting. And when they're there, they hear a woman sobbing. And he thinks to himself, maybe I can help her. And but what if I can't? What if it's not medical? So he asks his friend, do you think if she needs your help, would you help her? And he said yes. So they approached this woman, and they asked her, do you know who I am? She said yes. Well, I hear that you are sobbing, and I thought maybe either I can help you or my friend can help you. And she says, I do not need help. Tonight, I married off my 11th child, and I came here to say thank you. We ask Hashem for what we need, but do we say thank you? I want to give all of you a bracha that you should say thank you, and all the tears you cry should be of gratitude that Hashem answered your tefillos. And there's a Yiddish saying that always makes me laugh, that I'm going to say in English because my Yiddish is horrible. Hashem, I know you're going to help me, but could you please help me until you help me? Hashem should help us sooner than later, and we should just have a lot of gratitude, always be full of graciousness and gratitude to the people that help us, to Hashem who helps support us and helps us live through whatever we're living through. And that should be enough to get us to Mashiach. I would be glad to answer any questions if anybody has. Just so you know, it's 4 years since the onset of his symptoms, and the 2 years has passed. And when you have a trach, it can add another 10 years to your life if you have a desire to live and you're well taken care of. So Baruch Hashem, we have more time. Nobody ever knows how much time they have, but Baruch Hashem for that. Yeah.
I have 2 questions. The practical, easy to answer question is, who did the video? Who put it all together? How did they get your phone involved? And as I told you before, when I wake up wondering, that's the song that gives me, it's the only song that gives me solace.
Thank you.
I also wonder, what did you say to your son when he said that about the world came to hero?
I told him that he's right. They're too smart to lie. You know, I don't know. I gave him a hug. The song, that's easier. So my husband has a friend, Chaim Marcus. Chaim Marcus is brothers with Eighth Day and Eli Marcus, and a nephew to Avram Fried and a cousin to Benny Friedman, and he's from a very musical family, although he's never done anything like this before. And he's like a big dreamer, and he says to Yitzi, all right, so who do you want? So Yitzi starts listing, like Donald Trump, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to happen, but Yoram Gaon, and I don't know who, he said another name, I can't remember what he said. And so Chaim said, no problem. And he sent him an email, and 20 minutes later, he got an answer, whatever you want. Whatever I could do, I'd be glad to do. And actually, my mother was at a concert of his in Israel. She lives in Israel. And she sent a note that Yitzi's mother-in-law is here. And he came out within minutes to meet her and to please send my best to Yitzi. And I think of him all the time. And it's just, people are amazing. People are really amazing.
How do they decide who sang what part?
I have no clue.
The guy, I've never seen the guy at the very beginning.
Okay, I never, because I'm over 18, I've never seen him either. But apparently, so we had the whole thing finished, and they were trying to reach this guy. His name is Alex Clare, and he's a Baal Tshuva, but before he was a Bolshevik, he was like a big rock star in England with 1 million Facebook followers and like a huge crowd. And when he became Frum, he gave up all forms of internet, including email. So we had like no way to reach him. And then all of a sudden, one of my husband's friends bumped into him in Israel, a friend of also Chaim Marcus who was doing it, and said, you know, they were trying to reach you. Would you like to do this? And he's like, of course I would. And we're like, we're done. Where are you going to put that voice? And he sent us his voice, and that's a different kind of voice. And I don't know how they matched that with Mordechai ben David, but it ended up being amazing. Yeah.
Ladies, there are also cards on your chairs if you'd like to write a question and send it up. You can bring it up as well.
Anybody else? It's okay if you don't have questions, too. All right. Thank you very much for having me here. And I hope Hashem guides you through the challenges, and without challenges would be even better.
Thank you, Dina. Before everyone goes, we have the raffle that we're going to draw. And this is a raffle for three people? Okay, 3 people for a manicure. So, okay. Mrs. Pearlstein. Mrs. Zimmerman. And Sippy Dukes. Okay. Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thank you, Dina. Dina, is this yours?
No, somebody was recording.
Oh, that's right, that's right. Where is Leah? This is her phone, right?
No.
Oh, that's yours?
Thank you. Did it record?
It looks like it still is.
Great.